How is everybody? Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Deborah Silcox, and I'm the brand newly appointed by Speaker David Ralston, Chairman of Martoc. Been a MARTA rider all my life. Used to drive to the Abernathy Park Ride lot so I could ride MARTA downtown. And so very excited to work with MARTA and the ATL board to hopefully make MARTA better and stronger and way to get around so all of us don't have to just sit on the highway and look at each other, right? So thank you for coming. I want to just first have some introductions. Unfortunately, there are a lot of competing delegation meetings this afternoon, so not all of our members are here. But those who are here, I would like to everybody introduce themselves. Senator?
Yes, I'm Brandon Beach.
Oops. You're 21. There we go.
21.
Yeah.
Hello. Brandon Beach.
I've got it.
Hello. Okay, there. I'm Brandon Beach, Senate District 21, which is North Fulton and Cherokee County. And I'm happy to serve on this committee and continue to vote for transit and be an advocate for transit and what y'all are doing at MARTA. So thank you and good luck this weekend with the Super Bowl. We're pulling for you and want to make sure everything goes well. And congratulations, Madam Chair, to your appointment as chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey folks, Martin Montahan, House District 17, West Paulding County. Pleasure to be here and congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Representative Brett Harrell from Gwinnett County, and I am new to the committee, and I appreciate being here, and congratulations, Madam Chair. Look forward to serving.
Thank you.
Hello.
You're on.
Hello, I'm Senator Nikema Williams from the 39th District, completely in Fulton County, and I am probably the only member that lives on top of a MARTA train station, the Ashford Street Station.
Hello, I'm Senator Greg Kirk, and this is my second year on the committee, although I didn't even know I was on the committee last year, and there was only one meeting, and I didn't get invited to it, so I felt it had a little complex. I represent Senate District 13, which is in Americus, Georgia, that metropolis of the big rail yard for MARTA down there. That we have a big station that, no, we don't have anything to do with MARTA, so I really don't know what I did to get this honor, but I'm honored to serve.
Well, Senator Kirk, we appreciate you coming, and no disrespect to you. Honest to goodness, we were swearing in the last members of this committee at 11:30 in the governor's office, so it's been a scramble. So thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
All right, so the first matter of business we have today are the committee rules. I think y'all have those before you. And I will just suggest that I did review those. And the only change that I'm making from the previous rules is Rule 9. I'm going to ask that we vote that the rules be approved by a majority of the members of the committee rather than 2/3, because it's frequently difficult to get people to attend this meeting, particularly if they live out of town. So do I have a motion to approve the rules?
So moved.
Thank you. A second? Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you so much. I appreciate that. As far as the subcommittee and subcommittee chairs, I did have an opportunity to sit down with the previous MARTOC chairman, Representative Tom Taylor, and he was able to convey to me that previously we had 3 subcommittees of governance, public safety, and IT. And I would just like to announce the subcommittee chairman of those various subcommittees. Governance is going to be Representative John Carson. Public safety will be Chairman Brett Harrell. And the IT will be Representative Mike Glenn. So without that being done, I have a little surprise for everybody. And I believe our analyst Abby Day has got this geared up for us. But of course, in anticipation of the Super Bowl coming, I'd like to play this little video, and I hope that everybody who rides MARTA for the Super Bowl has this very experience. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. There we go.
I am so excited to get to New York and see this show. Are you ready for your flight?
I am. I got my Breeze card. It's already loaded.
Your Breeze card? You taking Marta? Why don't you drive?
You want to get out there in all that traffic?
You do what you want.
You want to see who gets there first?
You're on. What's the holdup? Rain, are you kidding me?
The next station is airport. I wonder how Bill's doing out there.
You gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. She still can't possibly get there ahead of me, though, can she?
Exit here for Huntsville Jackson International Airport.
Printing ticket. Please wait. That's all I've been doing. Move ticket. I need a parking space. No, you saw me waiting for that.
Where have you been?
Closest parking space was like, it was so far.
Bill, and you still think driving a car to the airport is the better idea?
All right, fine. Do you have another one of those Breeze cards?
I know, but I tell you what, I'll show you how to get your own. Come on. Let's go.
I thought that would be fun. So before Marta comes up, I do want to introduce Mr. Virgil Flood. Mr. Flood is going to introduce everybody that is here for Marta.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Madam Chair, for that wonderful video. We appreciate that. And thank you for the opportunity to allow Marta to come before you in this committee to present our preparedness for the Super Bowl. My name is Virgil Flood. I'm the Assistant General Manager for External Affairs. I've been with Marta now for 2.5 months. Let me introduce some of the folks that if you haven't already seen them or met them in the halls of the Capitol, you'll see them around. Colleen Kiernan, who's the Senior Director of Government Affairs. Lisu Kennedy, who's a Government Affairs Manager, and Justin Kernan, who is also a Government Affairs Manager. Along with us today are Liz O'Neill, who's our Chief Counsel. We have Lyle Harris, who is Communications Strategist. Dave Springstead, who is the Chief of Rail Operations. Wanda Dunham, who's the Chief of Security, Safety, and Emergency Management. We have Melissa Mullinex, who's the Chief of Staff. And I'll save the CEO for a second. But we also have with us today 2 of our board members, Mr. Bill Floyd and Mr. Al Pond. So Dave and Chief Dunham will be a part of the presentation, but the first person that you will hear from about our preparedness is our CEO and General Manager, Mr. Jeffrey Parker.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Virgil, and you've been a great addition to our team. And Madam Chair, I want to also congratulate you on the appointment and express that I really look forward to working with you and the rest of the committee going forward. So thank you for inviting us here. And I am really excited to talk about something that's so important to the city right now, and that's Super Bowl and MARTA and all the transportation issues that come with the single largest sporting event that is here in our city and about to be upon us on Sunday. I thought it was important to include in my presentation 2 key members of my team, our Chief of Police, Wanda Dunham, and Dave Springstead, who oversees our rail operations. So I will move along quickly, and I also just, I won't introduce them again, but thank 2 of the board members who've come to support me today. So just to go over a little bit, and we've done an awful lot in preparation. We're going to give a very brief overview of MARTA, thinking that there are some newer members to the Martoc, and thought we would just give a real quick overview, and then we will jump right into talking about all the activity related to Super Bowl preparedness. So we are the 9th largest transit system in the country. Carry a little over 700 million passengers a day, annually, excuse me. And, you know, we are critical to the infrastructure of transportation here in Metro Atlanta. Our operating budget is just over $450 million, and capital budget is also about $450 million. I think it's important that we have maintained fiscal solvency, and we are in our 7th consecutive year of having a balanced budget, and that is something that has been key to our success. This little infographic sort of shows what we look like, about 550 buses. We have 38 rail stations, a little over 330 rail vehicles, and so on and so forth. I'll let you take in the picture a little bit as you get ready to hear about our preparation. So with that, I'm going to jump into talking about Super Bowl preparedness. And please, at any time, just feel free to ask us questions. We'd love to share all the things that we have been doing. So a little bit on the game map. We do have a, you know, as we know, there's a huge area that is impacted by the Super Bowl. We wanted to give you a sense of where that is. And the key piece of it is you can see, and I'll try and highlight it with my, you know, MARTA is at the apex of the stadium. We have one station here, the Dome Station, and then Vine City. It's really important to point out that there is not another Super Bowl venue in this country that has more transit access than this Super Bowl, and we expect to carry more riders to and from the Super Bowl than any other previous Super Bowl in history or going forward until they come back to Atlanta in a number of years, and I'm sure they will. So I'm going to stay up here and ask the Chief of Police to come up, and she's going to talk about security and all the efforts that we have put in place over several years to get ready for this event.
Good afternoon. All right, 4 days and counting, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's actually a 10-day operational period, and it started for MARTA 2 years prior to that. So we didn't wait. We were not resting on our laurels and waiting until the Super Bowl happened upon us. We've been intentional about our planning process. 2 years ago, we sent a team to Houston, along with the Atlanta Police and other law enforcement agencies in the state. We have also sent a team to Minnesota. I personally went to Minnesota. I don't know why I chose that trip. It was a minus 26, but I'm glad it was last year instead of this year because it's minus 55 wind chill. So I chose correctly. But we learned a lot from those 2 meetings. A lot of lessons learned from that as far as, you know, just being flexible. They told us pretty clearly that we could plan, but the last month when the NFL arrives, everything will change. They've been true. That's been true. So we're fine. We're working it out. Be flexible and also include all of your employees. And so you'll hear from our team that we have included everybody because Mr. Parker, he made sure that it was all hands on deck. So anybody that works at MARTA, they were working out in the stations, they're helping, they're engaging our customers, they're giving the best customer service, they're working to help with the breeze machines because they can be a little finicky at times. And so everybody's out. There's over 600 employees that are out in the stations, you know, that normally would be in the offices. We have approximately 400 officers in the MARTA Police Department, but we wanted to make sure that our riders feel safe, our everyday riders as well as our visitors to the city. So we asked transit agencies from across the country to send your best and brightest. We begged, they responded, and so they started last Friday, and we have approximately 127 additional officers from 26 different jurisdictions that heeded our call.
So let me ask you, are they at all the stations, all the MARTA stations?
Yes, ma'am. That was a part of our security plan, is that we wanted to have police officers at every MARTA station. And so we are fully covered at MARTA stations. We also asked the TSA if they would give us additional K-9, which they did. They came in last Thursday, as well as Viper and Federal Air Marshals. And so,
Are they still wearing the neon vest?
yes,
They
ma'am.
were? Okay.
Yeah,
That's
so,
good to know.
well, so and we wanted to make sure that people could see us, right? Because, it's not good to have officers and nobody sees you. So we, not only do we have our officers in high visibility uniforms, we asked all of the folks who were coming to support us to also be in high visibility uniforms. And if they don't already have them, we put them in a high visibility vest that we provided for them.
Great.
So we're so what did we do? We trained. We practiced. We did dry runs on some of our large scale events. The SEC. We had the Mercedes. Well, we had the soccer event, and then we got a surprise with the parade. But we use all of those as preparedness exercises for all of our staffs. MARTA held 2 tabletops, and then we participated in the NFL tabletop as well as the FBI's tabletop. We put on a full-scale exercise. Maybe some of you saw it on TV on Channel 2 or some of the other stations that came out to cover it live in the middle of the night, and things were blowing off. We don't anticipate any of that happening, but we're always planning, and we want to make sure that we're prepared for any scenario. And then, of course,
And I'm sorry, one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
And so y'all have coordinated also with Grady Memorial, I hope?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes. So Grady is always at the forefront because, we want to make sure that, if we have walking wounded or we have casualties, we want to make sure that, Grady is involved. But we also, for the Super Bowl, we want to make sure, we looked at some of our past events, and some of the things that held us up is people being sick on the train, and so the train can't move. So how do we do a workaround? Well, we basically asked EMS to come and be at our stations, and so they will be covering our stations from Friday, Saturday, Sunday at all of the downtown stations.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's any questions, or you want to come back later?
Any more questions from the committee? Yes, Senator Kirk.
Yesterday here at the Capitol, we had a snow out. Some of us didn't show up. Some of us did. And I've heard a lot about that, by the way. But I also, while I was on the snow out yesterday, I was watching Channel 2, and they were talking about the sick out that you guys were having. Is that security as well, or is it just the drivers?
Oh, no, just the drivers. Every MARTA police officer showing up for work.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
No, thank you. We're good?
Question from Representative Jones.
Madam Chief, how are you?
How you doing, sir?
Good to see you as always.
Good to see you.
Listen, with this particular event, obviously there is more cost involved.
Yes.
And I guess my question is first of all, how much is this going to cost us just for this event? And are you getting some of those costs offset by whether it's federal, state, or local funding to help offset some of the costs?
So we haven't finished tallying how much it's going to cost yet. But we do have the other agencies are coming, the local jurisdictions. So College Park and Sandy Springs, they're Johns Creek. So they're all stepping up to the plate, and they're all helping us out at no cost to us. So that's a good thing. It's an in-kind type of service. The officers, the transit agencies that are coming out of town, we're not paying their salaries, but we're obviously taking care of their room and board and their travel. So we haven't finished tallying, but prior to Mr. Parker, they signed, we signed, our former general manager had to enter into an agreement with the NFL that we would support this event, and I don't believe that we're gonna get any money back.
Okay, I would just be curious to know what the tally be at the end.
Okay.
Thank you. Representative Glenn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Madam Chief, thank you for the briefing here, and Mr. Parker, welcome aboard. Haven't had a chance to talk with you yet. I look forward to that opportunity, and always my good friend and former state representative, Virgil Flood. Thank you for what you do. And Chief, you and I have had many conversations over the years, so
yes,
I appreciate you. My question, and I don't know if you've already covered this or not, we had another meeting. What are we doing? I'm talking in relations to transit.
Okay.
Obviously, in the news lately, we've hearing things about sick outs, and we're hearing things about court injunctions. We're hearing things about maybe the unions are involved, maybe they're not. And so I would appreciate if someone would shed some light on where we are now and where we hope to be, because the last thing in the world anyone up here would want to happen is for this city as a whole and this state to be embarrassed with not having the ability to move people from one place to another, causing chaos after we've been planning for 2 years. Would you address that for me, please?
Yeah, let me take on that issue, and before I get to that, the issue around the budget, we did allocate $2 million in our budget and plan for that expenditure. Like the chief said, we haven't tallied all the expenses, but that's what we were anticipating spending for this event. In terms of the sick out, first I want to lay out the circumstances of what's been happening. On Saturday, we had a marathon day, negotiated a contract with the local union, ATU Local 732. We have an agreement in principle. We believe it's a good contract. The union leadership endorsed it, and it's my understanding that they will be taking that to their leadership on this Saturday to vote, and management will be taking it to the board of directors to approve it. Unfortunately, Monday morning, after we had negotiated the contract, there begun to be a sick out, and we saw higher than usual sick calls, and we had somewhere over 100 bus operators call in sick. Normally, the number is a lot closer to about 20, 25 employees calling out sick. The impact to customers, and I don't want to downplay the impact to our bus ridership, and our bus riders are mostly the people who ride our system every day. The bus riders are the men and women in the city who just are getting to work and going to school. So the impact to service has been isolated to bus ridership. We have not seen any sick outs in terms of, as Chief said, police officers, rail operators, station maintainers, as well as maintenance personnel. So it's a very isolated group. Over the past 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, and now Wednesday, that number of employees who are calling in sick has decreased. I'm not going to stand in front of you today and predict what tomorrow will look like, but the trend is definitely going in the right direction. So in terms of providing service for people going to and from the Super Bowl, I think that it'll have minimal, as in possibly no impact on our customers who will be riding for the Super Bowl. The impact is largely and exclusively on our regular riders who come to work and ride the system every day. So I think we're headed in the right direction. I've had multiple conversations with the union leadership. They have shared with me that they are not involved in it, although we've gotten a lot of information otherwise. So we thought it was wise to go to court and to try and get a temporary restraining order in terms of this illegal action, the action that we believe is illegal. That's going on today. The latest information I heard is that the judge is trying to get a hearing for this afternoon. So that's just heard that about 25 minutes ago. So we hope to have a temporary restraining order, make sure that everybody involved understands that providing, public transportation service is critical to the economy of this region, critical to the customers who ride our service, and any sort of action is illegal and something that we are going to take very seriously. So I hope that sheds some light on this unfortunate circumstance.
Thank you. Follow up, Madam Chair?
Yes.
And you may or may not agree with my assessment, but if you, in my mind, if you have daily riders that are dependent upon that transportation, that being a bus from A to B, out of frustration, if we don't cap this thing, out of frustration, those bus riders become car drivers.
Absolutely.
And as a result, those car drivers contribute to an impact on the increase in cars on the road, more congestion, and that goes into that 2-year plan that we had not anticipating a sick out. Would you agree on that?
I would. And one of the things that I believe we've accomplished with our new contract is we do have a shortage of employees. The economy is great in Metro Atlanta. Unemployment is extremely low. It's something we should be proud of, but it is very difficult to hire certain positions, bus operators, one of those, other technical skills in our maintenance department. So we have negotiated a contract that will make those working conditions better for our existing employees as well as the people we know we need to hire.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So do you anticipate that the buses will be functioning and running for the Super Bowl, or do you not know?
We will have minimal impacts, I believe, for the Super Bowl unless the trend changes. And like I said, I think it's a positive sign that the union is going to have a ratification vote on the Saturday before the Super Bowl. And it's my personal hope, the hope of the MARTA staff, as well as in talking to the union leadership to get people coming to work. I'm concerned. We have a lot of contingency planning put in place that's been key to the planning for this event. And so, for example, we do have an agreement with the express service, and we will have extra buses and extra drivers available to us from Express. That was just a contingency plan we had put in place, and this may be something that we will call on if any sort of bus service needs to be augmented because of the sick out.
Senator Beach.
Yeah. Thank you for all your work in preparing for the Super Bowl. It looks like y'all are prepared and ready. At the end of the game, when the game's over, I guess it starts at 6:30, so
Sure.
3.5 hours later, are we going to have trains ready to go every 5 minutes or 10 minutes? Or what's your game plan to get the trains moving?
I'm gonna ask Dave Springstead. I can bring him up now if the chair would be okay, and he's gonna go through our operations plan. I think that will answer most of your questions. Okay. And somehow my tie has been messing up.
And my second part of that question is, to get Uber probably at the stadium is going to be a nightmare. Are y'all working with Uber and Lyft to make sure that they're at your station so that when they take the train to wherever station they are, they can get an Uber to their last mile?
We have coordinated that, and Uber and Lyft have gotten information out to their drivers about where the best stations that would be. I think we're encouraging customers who want to get Uber to go to Georgia State as well as other stations, but Georgia State is just 2 stops from the Dome. You don't have to change trains, and it's going to be less congested around there. So That's our intention. I'm going to turn it over to Dave Springstead, who oversees our rail operation, and he's going to talk about the specific plans for the service that we will be providing.
Good afternoon, and thank you. The one thing I can say is with the Chief and Jeff and Melissa, we've been fully engaged as an executive team, working hand in hand weekly. And we've had weekly meetings probably for the better part of a year, even before Chief and her team went on some trips. So we've been meeting once a week, every week for about a year, getting ready for this event. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the service plan, and I'll answer Senator Beach's question about frequency of trains as well. So we've got a lot going on here, and we recently had a press conference down at our Mercedes-Benz stop for the event. We formerly called it the Dome Station, but we took a lot of things into account in planning for this. And Chief talked about going on the trips, and we looked at road closures for bus routes and how to manage buses in and out of 5 points. We talked about parking situations. Obviously, there's not a lot of parking around the venue. There's a lot of great information out there on the highways about running MARTA, taking transit, and we've asked all our employees to basically take external parking areas, park at the MARTA facilities, leave all the station access parking open for the riders. Be as far away as you can to let the riders really pull up to the station and use every available parking space that we have. As far as activities, we've got a daily calendar, and we've had a lot of great events so far. As far as extended hours for restaurants, I'll get into the service plan, but we had planned Friday, Saturday, Sunday through Monday to get everybody on the planes. We were going to run 24-hour service. Well, we've got another big concert coming up on Thursday night, so it's going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We are not going to stop service. So we're going to run continuous service because they start at 9 o'clock, they end around 1, and we're not going to close the stations down until the very last patron comes through the station. As far as Hartsfield-Jackson, we're getting tremendous numbers of folks that are going to be coming through the airport. We've actually deployed staff of just about every discipline that we have within our toolbox that are down at the airport, and in particular at 5 Points for the major junctions. And then again, as far as administrative staff, I know Mr. Parker and Chief talked about it. There's over 600 slots of administrative staff that have been redeployed all throughout the system over the 10-day period. And we're talking architects and we're talking clerical staff, and everybody's out there putting their all in trying to provide customer service. And the one thing I got to say, we did about 6 to 7 full sessions of transit ambassador training where folks were just trained. Our training department did it. It was great training. It had lots of videos. It had human trafficking in it. It had everything we need to do to provide great customer service. The schedule here, just to orientate you to the schedule, we're reading from top to bottom, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and if you can see, the red bar right there is our Emergency Operations Center activation with the chief. We call it a soft activation, a smaller staff, and we're gearing up to full activation. In fact, we activated it for the potential threat of a snowstorm. We had every discipline sitting in the Emergency Operations Center, and it was about 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and we called it off, and we said, everybody go back to the regular job for now, and keep your eyes on what's going on. And then as far as the 4 a.m. service, you can see effective Tuesday morning. Normally we run service at about 5 a.m. We fired up service at 4 a.m. and we continue to run regular service. And then as far as getting into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I've added one additional box in there. That accounts for the crowd we're expecting at the State Farm concert on Thursday evening. We've got a lot of real popular acts here in town. So you can see once we hit that point, we will not shut down. And that'll be full rail service. And then there's a complement of bus service on some major routes that will also run 24 hours as well.
I did receive a memo about that the derailed vehicle has been taken care of and all, and I assume y'all have run testing to make sure that wouldn't occur again.
Yes.
God forbid it did occur again. Is
Yes.
there any way we could get that taken care of faster than 4 days?
Yeah, well, the situation was the crane was the long lead item to get the crane out there, and we love working with the airport, and the airport's very solid. There are some rules and regulations with heights and getting big equipment into the airport, and unfortunately we had to displace some folks that were parked, so we had to get an agreement to have vehicles moved out of the way so the crane could actually get into the airport. So what I believe the team did is they worked around what they could as quickly as possible, but safety was our number one factor. And I got to say, the good point is staff did a great job, but the fact that we could actually run service in and out of the airport with a shuttle. Effectively, what we did is we made the airport to College Park. College Park became the terminal point of the MARTA South line, and you had to transfer at College Park to get into the airport. We also pulled about 8 to 10, and at some points in time, 11 buses using our articulated buses. You could take a ride from College Park to the airport. It was under a 7-minute ride. It was averaging about 5 to 6 minutes. So once the information got out about how to ride, travel times weren't that bad, and we flooded the platforms with folks to try to guide everybody to the airport and make it as convenient as possible.
Great. Representative James?
Madam Chair, my question is not so much for this gentleman, but for Mr. General Manager.
Okay, well, maybe we'll let him finish.
Yes, I want to let him finish.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't have many more slides.
And Representative Harrell, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I may have just missed it in the news report. What was the cause of the train track issue there at the airport? Did you determine the cause?
Okay, we have it identified to a couple of things. The investigation's still undergoing, but it's related to the switch immediately north when you exit the airport. It was a crossover move, and just to visualize this, you know, you got 2 tracks at the airport, and you got a train sitting there, it's going to make a crossover move and another crossover move to go into our south yard. So it was an out-of-service train, and the operator was taking it through the crossover, and the two last cars, when they interfaced with the switch at the airport, one of the wheels became dislodged and got out of sync with the rail, and it basically was kind of bouncing around a little bit. So it's switch related. We've got that much information, but the investigation is still underway.
And God forbid such a occurrence happen when there are passengers on the train, and this may be more for the chief, but I'm sure your contingency plans include such an action. And are you prepared? Do you feel confident that the preparations are there for both public safety and medical teams to respond quickly should an event occur where passengers are actually on the train?
Yes, we're confident, and we practice that, we train for that, and heaven forbid it happen, but we're prepared before it happens.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, the train at the time of the derailment was moving less than 10 miles an hour. It was creeping through the interlocking and had a situation with the switch. Contingency plans, good segue to Chief's response here, and great question. We've been practicing for potential service disruptions. How do we respond? How do we get trains out there? We do have standby trains. We park them at the end of the line and we put them in pocket tracks. We do have extra operations, safety, and police staff out there. And as Chief said, a lot of them are going to be visible, but a lot of them are going to be maintenance folks that are behind the scenes, that are in the stations, that are not out there getting in the way of our patrons and our great employees doing customer service. You may not see them, but they are there, and they're ready to respond. And as far as our major contractors, because we do have some equipment that's specialized, we contacted all of our major contractors that maintain elevators, escalators, catenary wire for the streetcar, all that kind of good stuff, and they're all either with us on property or they're immediately on call and close by. Particularly on Super Bowl Sunday, everybody will be on property. Everybody will be close to respond. And then for roving mobility support, what that really means is if we have an elevator go out of service and we have a non-ambulatory patron that needs assistance, we can bring a mobility van in immediately and get them to where they need to go in case one of the elevators does happen to go out of service. And we're very sensitive to that as well. As far as inclement weather goes, we've got equipment distributed all over the system, stowed away, and equipment and machinery. And then as far as rest areas go, we bought mattresses and bedding, and we're using quarters at all of the MARTA facilities that have conference rooms and restrooms and wash areas are all going to be areas where if we have to stay overnight and work through the night, that our employees can go get a quick nap, some shut-eye, and get right back out there, especially with inclement weather. And then as far as the emergency systems, we went through and tested all of our fire system, emergency generators, our battery back systems. We've gone soup to nuts checking all of that stuff. So we've been practicing and training. So we've been working hard. I'll go through this last piece very quick. And as Lyle said to me, we should have brought a pocket full of Breeze cards down here because they are kind of sharp looking. So I'm sure we have some somewhere. But they have them already? Okay, great. So it's a good-looking card. Our employees got a commemorative card. It's very good-looking, and we actually put some extra vending machines in. So in particular at Vine City, that is obviously not a very large station, we installed 5 additional Breeze machines right at the foot of the bridge as you enter the MARTA station. And we'll be policing those and managing that to allow folks.
And I understand you also did additional signage there because there's some confusion about which station to get off for the game.
Yeah, there's most of the workers, we've been in conversations with the Dome as well. Our trains are going to stop at both Mercedes-Benz Dome and at Vine City. If you're working at the Georgia World Congress Center, the workers are kind of getting off on one stop, but the patrons are going to have full access to get off at either station if they prefer.
Thank you.
Okay. And then I'll finish right up. As far as communications goes, we've got a link on our website. You talked about Uber and Lyft and some other items. And then the radio and the printed ads. And, of course, that's a streetcar that we wrapped about a month ago, has been rolling around town looking great. And we did talk about the ambassadors. So we have a lot to tell you about the Super Bowl, but these are the highlights.
Representative Harrell.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I'll just finish up with the signage there because I had one or two more slides, but I know this is kind of getting on long. If you've noticed, we've done a lot of improvements out there in the stations. We're working on the lights, the floors, the walls, the signage, and trying to do some improvements. We've installed some additional CCTV cameras as well. And then there's just some shots of our workers actually going down. You may know some of the stations. There's Vine City, Peachtree Center, but to get the trackway clean. And I know we get a lot of feedback on the trackways dirty, and we get these special events, and the water bottles and the trash gets thrown on the trackway. We run just about 22 hours a night, and we shut down for 2 hours a night. So getting out on the trackway might be a pinch, but we're doing our very best to keep the trackways clean as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Harrell.
Thank you. You and Mr. Parker both mentioned some coordination with Uber and Lyft. Are you also coordinating with our traditional taxi and limo services?
You know, I think that primarily has been some conversations we've had with the city around that, and I don't know that we've talked directly to the taxi cab industry, but we could get with the city and reach out to them to make sure that we're covering the bases.
So you may be aware Uber and Lyft are encouraging a significant increase in vehicles available for this event, many
Correct.
coming from outside our marketplace and some from outside of state. You may or may not be aware then that our limos, which contract with many of the national companies and executives that will be here for this event, found some difficulty bringing limos in from outside of state. Just didn't know if you were involved in that discussion or not.
I was not.
Okay, very good. I think just for edification of the group, I think this is a very high-profile event, and it's my understanding the vast majority of the tickets for this event are not consumed in the general population, but are consumed by sponsors and advertisers and other teams and a great number of people. And my suspicion, this is just a suspicion, I don't know it as fact, is some of these corporate execs that make much more money than I do a year are probably not going to walk out of Mercedes and get on a train, and when they get off, jump in a Uber Kia or a Bird scooter, and would probably prefer a limo service. And I have some concern that unless we solve that problem, we may have not directly related to your service, but we may have a little egg on our face. So if you have an opportunity to assist there, it might be complete the experience for your customers in a way that will leave them very happy with the experience in Atlanta.
They would get in a Honda, I think. All be on one accord.
I do want to recognize the President Pro Tem Butch Miller for joining us today. Thank you. And thank also Senator Anderson for joining us. Thank you. Got another question from Representative Glenn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is kind of a follow-up question to my first question involving the sick out. Obviously, today our priority and focus is on the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl region. But let's just suppose that there are some folks out there who don't know what a Super Bowl is and don't care about a Super Bowl, but they do care about getting to work on their usual routes. Will there be any impact in the negative arena for schedules, routes, those types of things that are happening outside of the Super Bowl region, whether we're talking bus or rail? Do you foresee any delay in service, any impact on routes, any impact on schedules?
Well, you know, we've taken an approach where we've focused on three core groups, and the first group that we've been focused on during this entire planning has been our existing customers, because people continue to go to work, people continue to work, and during the Super Bowl event and traffic conditions, people will quite frankly want to rely on the local people who live here and need to do the things that they do will become more reliant on MARTA because of parking issues and road closings. So we focused a lot on that. We believe that the additional service and we will have additional service, and we talked some about that, a lot of standby trains. So on the rail service, we're well prepared to provide service to meet the needs of both the local folks who are doing the things that they do every day, as well as workers who are in town. There's a substantial number of workers who have come in town to prepare the various sites for the Super Bowl. We've taken that into consideration. And then the third group is obviously the people who will be going to the game and the different venues. The NFL has told us that we should be expecting massive crowds and that the majority of people who will go to the Super Bowl event will ride MARTA. So on the rail side, we are well prepared. I believe we are also well prepared with contingency planning on the bus side. The one thing that we're concerned about, and we continue to dialogue with the ATU around this as well as our workforce, is whether or not any sort of illegal sick-out action will have an impact. I'm very hopeful that it won't, but I can't stand here today and guarantee that it won't. I have been in constant communication with the union over this issue. They have assured me that they are working hard to make sure that their members are coming to work. And also, like I said, I think it's a positive thing that they will have a ratification vote on the Saturday, the day before Super Bowl Sunday.
And so you're pretty comfortable and confident that regardless of what happens in the Super Bowl region, the folks outside of that region, more specifically Clayton County, they don't have to worry about their service being interrupted as usual.
Absolutely. This morning, just speaking of Clayton County, and it's not the only region I worry about, but the garage where all the buses come out of Clayton County did not have any impact with sick out drivers, anything than normal. So Clayton County service, I believe, is largely unaffected this morning by any sort of sick out. And so we continue to work with the union and encourage all of our drivers to come into work. It's critically important because our bus service is really, providing service to the people who live in the communities that we serve and trying to access their jobs and school and hospitals and all that. And all that, as you know, just continues to happen during big events like this.
Thank you.
I'm not certain, is it Representative Gardner is number 12? Senator Anderson? No? Got it. Oh, no, excuse me, it's the pro tem, excuse me, number 12. Thank you.
One in your heart.
Absolutely.
Number 12 on your roster.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here, and I know you've got a lot of issues to be addressing, you and Melissa and the chief and others, and I appreciate very much you spending the time here bringing us up to speed. My question revolves around the sick out and what we knew, what we knew and when did we know it? Because my constituents were texting me at 7:40 a.m. on Monday morning telling me there was going to be a sick out. And I live in Hall County. Mm-hmm. And no bus drivers live in Hall County that drive from MARTA, I don't think.
There may be one or two, but I don't think there's a lot.
Not many. And if you have 75 people that aren't going to show up,
yeah,
it's hard to keep a secret with 75 people. And my question is, what do we do in reaction to prepare for this if we knew it was coming? I mean, and we had to know that something was coming. And did we enlist the other buses that you were referring to? I guess you were referring to like the Cobb County Transit and the Gwinnett Transit and so forth, the express buses.
We've contemplated doing a lot of things, and we've done a lot of things to mitigate this. One of the things is that we believe, and we still believe, that the actions of the individual members are strongly influenced by the union leadership. I had a conversation on Friday, sent a letter to the union president, also talked to him about this concern. It was not a well-kept secret. Unfortunately, in order to get bus drivers from another property, we do have, several properties, Cobb and Gwinnett. They are also union members. They are also a unionized workforce. And being able to do the route training and get them familiar with all the aspects of MARTA service would have been very difficult to do. So our approach over the weekend was really trying to, one, make sure that we settled the contract on Saturday. We had about a 14-hour day. We successfully did that. I was personally disappointed that the union didn't immediately go and roll out that to the membership. They've waited until, I think they're going to do that tomorrow. and roll that out to the membership. We have shared the deal publicly so that their members can see the information that we've released to the public. It's a difficult situation. I think the focus has been on existing staff. For example, we have reassigned some supervisors who don't normally drive a bus to augment the staff, and done everything we can, and we continue to try and do that. We actually had a conversation with a private operator, a national operator, to try and augment the service yesterday, and their comment was it would take them 60 days to be able to provide any additional staff. So we're really focused on trying to do everything to augment the staff within our existing workforce with supervisory folks and other people who have CDL licenses, as well as just encourage, with the support of the union, getting people to work. So I think we're beyond the most of it, but we will see tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That kind of dovetails into my next thought and question regarding the ATU and their level of responsibility and their level of response and their level of ownership. I mean, if you've got a union and they can't control their members, then pro or con, that's not a good circumstance. And what are the consequences for the people who have clearly violated the bond or the word or the promises of the union? What is ATU's consequence to those drivers or those members? If there is no consequence, we're going to be in the same situation again when we have another big event. I mean, this didn't happen by accident. I mean, they knew this was going to be a high-profile, very important event. They didn't do this on Easter Sunday.
Correct.
So
Correct. So a couple of things. One is, just to be clear, there was an action that was taken. We do have a contract that prevents this from happening, and then the MARTA Act has language that makes it a violation of state law. So it is our position that we need to, conduct an investigation. We've begun that. And the first step in terms of holding people accountable is that internal investigation, but also the actions of going to court and getting a temporary restraining order, having a hearing, and make sure that both the individuals who are taking an illegal action, as well as any union official who is suggesting or encouraging that to happen, my position is, and the position of management is, that people need to be held responsible, and there has got to be consequences to those actions, and that's really where we're focused, and it's an important thing to me, because like you said, this is a serious impact. It has an impact on the region just from a PR perspective, but it also has a real impact on just people who want to get to work and ride, and that is the thing that I am most concerned about. The people who want to take our service every day were impacted, and it's not right.
We're talking about not lifestyle riders that want to go to the Super Bowl. We're talking about lifeline riders.
Absolutely.
And that is what, at the end of the day, is what's going to keep MARTA in business. It's not going to be the Super Bowls of the world. They're going to be in the limos, helicopters, Hondas.
So I appreciate that concern, Mr. President Pro Tem, I really do, and I believe that's what Representative Clinton was also speaking to, that this is truly a lifeline for so many people, and so I do think it's critical that y'all prevail.
Yeah, I share this concern, and at there's a lot of things to be concerned about, but I think the group of people that we have to be most concerned about are the people who simply ride our system every day.
Absolutely. And Representative Jones, you had another question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I read that MARTA had negotiated a contract, and it's supposed to give about a 3% pay increase over 3 years, each 3 years.
Yes.
Can we afford that?
Yes, we can. We've looked at our financing, and clearly it's my responsibility to make sure that we're not agreeing to a contract that is unaffordable. We have been running surpluses, and when we work with our financial department, I believe that it is.
Was a performer done? Was there a 3-year performer done?
Yes, we do that continually, and we looked at what we could afford in terms of pay raises and worked with our finance
Can I get a
department.
copy of that?
We could share with you the details of that, sure.
Okay, and is it going to be, do you see revenues increase or revenues going to stay the same? Is it going to be a fair increase down the road?
There is, today there is no plan for a fare increase. I don't want anyone suggesting that I'm saying that, but I will say that we've gone, I think, 7 or 8 years without a fare increase, and that at some point in time, I do believe that I need to take to the MARTA Board of Directors a potential fare increase. There's no plan right now to do that, but several years have gone by where we haven't had fare increases.
Because I have my Breeze card, and I'm just checking. I am a rider. And my last question is, why did you all decide not to go to DeKalb, Clayton, Atlanta, and Fulton to sign the 15th Amendment?
There are the jurisdictions have some concerns over details of the 15th Amendment, and we continue to work with each of the jurisdictions to try and make sure that all their individual concerns have been met before we take it to them. We've got a process where once we send the jurisdiction a letter that we are enacting or proposing a 15th Amendment, then we only have 60 days to get it approved, and we've, the cycle of when each of those jurisdictions have meetings, we've got a pretty narrow window, so we want to make sure that we've got consensus before we do that. It's something that we're actively talking to both the Board of Directors as well as the individual jurisdictions to make sure that we can get that approved.
Okay. And the IGA, Intergovernment Agreement with Gwinnett, lets them keep their one
Representative
state.
Jones, I'm sorry. I think we're starting to lose our folks. And so I appreciate everybody's attention very much. And I think we will stand adjourned for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.